Hey everyone, I'm going to be taking a comparative look here at the two Sentinel class Imperial landing craft that LEGO has made, roughly minifig scale, or at least to be used with minifigs. The most recent one came out just this year, 2018, with 636 pieces at a retail price of $90 US, with 4 figures plus a full-sized droid. The previous and first one came out in 2007. This had 471 pieces, retailed at an inflation-adjusted $60 US, and came with 5 regular minifigs. The overall sizes of these two are very similar. This one sits up a little bit higher. It has a little bit taller main cargo and troop compartment here, but then less bulk back here. The overall sizes of the wings and winglets are very compatible. But the nod for overall bulk and heft does have to go to the newer one, with at least its exterior volume for that key center cargo section being noticeably larger. The most obvious visual difference that you can spot between these two from a mile away is in the designs of their cockpits, with the newer one being much closer to an accurate design, still far from photorealistic, but the old one relied upon mostly this large windshield piece, windscreen piece, that really doesn't match the shape of the in-universe design with no print on it. The troop and cargo carrying sections probably couldn't be much different, even though they're similar on the outside and use a lot of the same pieces for the major covers. Inside, it's a very different story. The new version has these trays formed with sideways placed 2-stud thick door frames that basically allow you to put one figure in each, or if you have not much in the way of accessories, then you can just stack in 2 figures on either side. And then they have this center section that pulls out to give you a small ramp. The 2007 version had some mechanisms built in, and in fact, the entire cargo space could be dropped as a drop pod. This included 2 large Technic cannons that could be fired by pushing these yellow protrusions here, one on either side, to activate the trigger to fire off one of these large competition cannon shots on either side. And back here it also had a bomb bay you could activate from outside. You just push down, actually push up on this, and it drops out a couple of these whatever kind of bombs you want them to be. But there was still a fair amount of interior space that could be used by figures. By default, this was designed to comfortably accommodate the 4 included troops, 2 of them sitting down the center, 2 of them standing on the sides, plus their weapons that are attached to jumpers on the ground. But here I've also added in 4 additional figures, and I've not used up all of the space, and I've not done any modifications. Now, the overall design of these landing craft is based off the Lambda class shuttle as seen in Return of the Jedi, and that was a very memorable design. It was very elegant, mostly because of the design of its wings, which would fold down to go into a flight mode and fold up to land. So it's very important that they captured that in both versions, or any version of this ever, as a model. This version allows you to go into the flight mode while it's still on the ground. It stands up far enough for that, and the angles of the wings are pretty good, but it is definitely lacking in wing or winglet size, with the dorsal fin definitely being sized down, but these smaller ones being sized down even further still. It's just a little bit miniaturized, relatively speaking. This center section is supposed to be large and bulging and kind of ugly, as seen in A New Hope in the edits that were done in the 97 special edition there, but the wings and winglets are still important. The older LEGO version used some dark colors in there, which just makes it a different specific shuttle. Not all of them were supposed to be all white, although the primary white color scheme is more memorable and what more people look for. But this one had this great mechanism here that really paid homage to the elegance of the folding wing design by gearing the two and allowing you to bring them down together, and it just feels much more smooth. It doesn't use the ratcheted joints in there. It's a little bit unsightly with the visible mechanism underneath, but they did also have these much larger winglets down here, relatively speaking. So I think this one gets an easy nod in terms of the design there, and somebody who wanted to get that all white design could replace just a handful of pieces to bring that up to parity. But again, this is supposed to, I believe, represent a version that's not just all white. But this was a nice thing to see, and it feels good too to make that happen. Of course, by now you've seen the difference in figures, with the new version of the set coming with a proper shuttle pilot, and then two excellently detailed sand troopers of different ranks with lots of great printing. And then for the sake of conflict, they also added in an Obi-Wan figure and a droid that they're looking for, just to allow some additional scenarios of battle and interaction within one set. The 2007 version gave us a TIE fighter pilot who wasn't necessarily appropriate for piloting a shuttle, and then 4 generic troops, just regular stormtroopers, 2 of them having a different rank. And ultimately, all 5 of these could be seen by kids as trooper variants, which is very appropriate for a troop carrier set. 2 very different approaches to modeling ultimately the same thing. It's very interesting to me that the older version had a lot more action features built into it, things that people tend to complain about in the more modern sets. I think most Star Wars fans who are not into Lego and don't have a nostalgic bias would very much prefer the look of the newer model on display. It looks much, much more like the canonical design. But as a toy, the 2007 version just did its job of being a troop carrier much better, in my opinion. It was easier to get access to the troop compartment, you could put more in it, and it had the additional action features which, if you didn't like, you could leave out, giving you even more room. Plus, it actually came with a bunch of troops, rather than just 2. Not to mention the fact that even adjusted for inflation, the new one costs 50% more than the old. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about these 2 sets in the comments down below, and I'll talk to you again soon.